Thank you, Heather. I'm going to talk about influence and critical thinking. I hope you're enjoying Elevate and you've got some ideas that you want to take back to the dealership and influence other people about. And in addition, just in being more effective, influence is a great skill. When you combine it with critical thinking tells us that we need to focus on what works for influence. And the problem is some of the things that we commonly do in an effort to be influential aren't as helpful as we hope. My first big idea is the facts don't matter if nobody believes you. And you may find that you've got a lot of facts, but it doesn't work to influence people. This is probably a situation you're all dealing with. You have a friend or a relative who's a member of the wrong political party. Take them out to lunch, explain the facts. Do they change their mind? The answer is always no. But it's the same way at your dealership. You may be the service expert, maybe the sales expert, the finance expert. You're trying to influence somebody about what you are an expert in, and despite the reality that the facts are on your side and you're right, they don't listen. And I like to say authority is out and influence is in. When we rely on authority, we often get the opposite of what we want, is what people not doing what we want them to do. So as a young professor, I was always in the least desirable classroom. It was an old science building, 150 people jammed in there. When it's hot outside, it's hot in that classroom. And every semester, the students would say, "Open up those doors." And I would walk over to these doors. There was a sign on the door. And the door said, "These doors must remain closed." And must was in bold. And then it said, "No exceptions," bold and underlined. Signed so-and-so, department head of chemistry. And I'd read that sign to the students, but I'd say, you know what? We live in a democracy, so we're going to have a vote. 150 people jammed in the room. I said, how many of you would like for me to open these doors anyway? You're probably thinking all 150 hands went up. You'd be very close. It's always 149. There is always one dork in the back. I don't think we should. But 149 people, open up those doors. No excuses. What about a fire? Could we go out then? Department head of chemistry. What are you, commander-in-chief of all doors? It's an annoying sign. And my guess is you're just watching this and you wanted the doors open. Because when human beings feel like somebody's telling us what to do, what we get is resistance, resentment, and potentially rebellion. And resistance is people don't do what we want them to do. Resentment is I do it, but I don't like you. And then rebellion is they just don't do it. So whether you are interacting with, customers, the people who work with you, your team that you are the manager of, or even up above in the organization or calling headquarters, right? You don't want resistance, you don't want resentment, and you don't want people to rebel. So you're probably thinking what does work and what critical thinking tells us. And if you think about it for a minute, you'll know it's true, but it's not the first thing that pops into our head. If we like somebody, we like to do what they want us to do. Your best friend asks you to drive them to the airport at 6 a.m., you've got to do it. And I'm going to use a business definition of likable, that we like people that we trust, we like people that we admire, and we like people that we respect. So the idea of influence is that in every interaction we have, whether we're writing an email, making a phone call, speaking face-to-face with a customer, speaking to our team at a conference table, what we're going to do is we're going to stop and we're going to be deliberate and intentional, and we're going to think about what can I say, what can I do to increase these people's admiration, respect, and trust for me. I try to use all the things I talk about to be more effective in my life easier. I'm going to tell you a story about using it at home with my son, but it's the same concept you can use at work. Standing in the kitchen, minding my own business. We're getting ready to go out in public. My 8-year-old son comes in. We're going outside. He doesn't have his shirt on. I say, dude, where is your shirt? He says, I'm not wearing a shirt. I said, you have to wear a shirt. We're going out in public. And he says, why do I have to wear a shirt? What I want to say is because I said so, but that's authority, and that's going to get me resistance and resentment. So I had to think of a reason. And reasons are big for influence. Everybody wants to know, why do we have to do this? So I was trying to think of a reason. I was tired. So I came up with this. Well, it's family policy. Just a shirt-wearing family. Grandpa wears a shirt, I wear a shirt, we all wear shirts. He says the state of Oklahoma does not require males to wear a shirt in public. I'm not going to do it. So then I thought to myself, what do I have now? I said, well, son, you're a little young to know this, but the truth is only criminals go out in public without their shirt on. And I realize he's a little young for that, but I think it's true. And you know how kids are. Within a couple of days, he's looking out the window, look, Dad, criminals. And I'm like, yeah. And he starts thinking, why don't they just arrest people with their shirt off before they commit crimes? I'm like, well, it wouldn't bother me, but the Constitution says otherwise. Anyway, the point of the story is you might think it's a little extra work to have to come up with a reason, but I think you know it makes you much more influential when people have a reason and you're not telling people what to do. And that brings us to the influence strategy, which is to increase the admiration, respect, and trust that other people have for us. On this slide, I have a picture of Joe Girard, who's in the Guinness Book of World Records as the greatest car salesperson. He sold almost 1,500 cars one at a time to consumers in 1 year. And he stumbled upon what my graduate students found. I thought, if being liked is so important, I need to send my graduate students out to do research on why people like each other. And the number one reason that human beings like each other is illustrated in Joe Girard's strategy. I read his book, and what he did was every time he sold somebody a car, he wrote down their name, he wrote down their address, and then every month he mailed them a card. And when you open up that card, it says, I like you. That's it. Pre-printed, sent to everybody, but Joe Girard stumbled upon what my graduate students found, and that is the number one reason human beings like each other is the information that somebody liked you first. And if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. What grade were you in when someone passes you a note? Shirley likes you. Ooh, I like Shirley. Who is it? Like, you don't even care. But if Shirley likes you, you will like her back. As I said, I am consciously trying to use these ideas in my life. I'm sure you find this hard to believe, but I'm giving a lecture to young people in a college class, and I think it's riveting, but some of them are talking among themselves. If you haven't thought it through, you might say this, excuse me, please be quiet, thank you. It's pretty polite, please, excuse me, please, and thank you. But from the student's point of view, you've embarrassed me in front of the whole class, you must not like me, I don't like you. So what I do is apply our concept. I say, excuse me, Stevie, can't help noticing you're talking, and you know what? I like you, and I want you to get an A. Now, here I am explaining what's going to be on the test. Please, I like you, pay attention, I want you to get an A. What does he do now? He likes me, I like him, leave me alone, I'm trying to take notes, and he's off and running. Right? So business liking comes from behaving and interacting with people in a way that increases their respect, admiration, and trust for you. So to show you how this works, I'm going to try to put it together with a 5-step process, and I'm going to use a silly example, even though you can use this strategy for the very serious things that you do at work. I'm using a silly example because 1, I hope it'll be fun, and 2, memorable, so it sticks with you, so you remember to apply these concepts. So years ago, I got 2 speeding tickets. I live in Tulsa, and I work at a college campus 75 miles away. I got 2 speeding tickets in a 2-week period. I got a 66 and a 55 in this town called Manford, in between. Then I got a 77 and a 65 in the county where the university is. I made a bet with a management professor. I would use my 5-step process to get out of the speeding ticket. Step 1, make a personal connection so they listen. It seems like an obvious point, but if they're not listening, it doesn't matter what you say. How many times in your life are you talking to someone? They're looking at you, they seem to be paying attention, there aren't any distractions, but they're not listening. It happens a lot. The cure for that is to connect. And of course, when you talk to someone that you like and respect, the connection comes. But we want to connect so they listen. The second is to stand in their shoes. When you're sending an email, ask yourself, how would I feel if I received that email? If you're saying something in a meeting, ask yourself, if I'm listening to this, how would it make me feel? Because what we want to do is increase, right, their perception of us by looking at things through their point of view. From the standpoint of the judge, what's in it for the judge? And the answer is nothing, right? There's seemingly nothing in it for the judge to find that I'm not guilty. But what is in it is I'm going to appreciate the judge. And that's something that we can always remember to do, is show appreciation for the people we interact with. I am going to appreciate the judge. The third one is the big one. Become that persuasive messenger that people like to say yes to. And of course, this is where we think, how do I build the trust, admiration, and respect? So I'm going to court. I've got a very short time to try to make this relationship with the judge. And of course, it relies heavily on behavior, relies heavily on attitude, and when we don't know people well, appearance matters a lot. So I thought about what to wear, but I also thought about what not to wear, and I immediately dismissed not wearing my NASCAR jacket to argue a speeding ticket. I think that sends the wrong message. What I decided to wear is the most truthful of all garments. I think when you hear, you're going to agree. Many of you are wearing this item right now, but nothing says truth like khaki pants. And I get excited about it. I wish I had 15 minutes to explain all the benefits of khaki pants. Unfortunately, I'll tell you one story. I was speaking to the city government of a large city, and I happened to have the police chief in the crowd. He looked like he was 65 years old. I couldn't resist. I had to ask him. I said, "Sir, in your entire law enforcement career, do you ever recall arresting somebody who was wearing khaki pants?" He said, "I don't recall that I have." I said, "How about people with their shirt off?" Every day. It is completely the opposite. I'm wearing khaki pants, and then I'm going to wear a tweed sport coat with elbow patches, because nothing says truth like tweed. Slick clothes look like you're slippery. Tweed has got a lot of friction. It slows things down. It sends the right message. Now, obviously, in the real world, behavior and attitude matter a lot. I'm quick hitting here, right? So I'm going to tell the truth, so I'm going to look like a truthful person. The fourth one is, don't create conflicts and confrontations. If we try hard, once it goes south, it's hard to pull it back even to even. So I'll use here an example of my brother and I. We are opposites, as brothers often are. I am a professor who lives in the United States. My brother is an IT guy who lives in Sweden. You may ask, why does your brother live in Sweden? And the answer is, because he's irritated everyone in America, and he had to move to Sweden. And here would be how it plays out in court. If the judge says to me, speeding is the biggest problem facing America today, I would quickly think, who knows more about this, me or the judge? The judge. What are the odds I'm going to change her mind? 0. I understand, Your Honor. Here's what my brother would do. Speeding is the biggest problem facing America today. My brother would say, speeding? What, are you kidding me? How about crime and terrorism? Huh? Well, he may be right, but it's going to be guilty, because people get to say yes or no regardless of whether it's the right answer. That's why the facts don't work as well as we would hope. So the fifth one I leave up to you, and that is, make sure the facts are the facts. Get control of information and misinformation. If your facts are not accurate, you will lose trust and respect. So we have to make sure we're telling the truth. So in preparation for my day in court, I called the smartest lawyer in the college town. I said, "Could you give me some advice?" She said, "I'll give you advice. Give up." I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "Everyone in town knows, right, that this judge doesn't change tickets. That's why the management professor made the bet with you. Not only does she not change tickets, she's going to yell at you, and everybody knows that you'll be the only person there for traffic with the felons and the misdemeanors." I would have given up, but I have a stubborn nature, and I made a big bet. So I get ready for court. I get on my khaki pants, my tweed sport coat. I'm off to court. As promised, I sat there almost 3 hours. By the time we get to traffic, there's just 2 of us. She called the other guy's name first and started yelling. She said, "I don't change tickets. Only under the most bizarre circumstances would I consider it. Plead guilty or not guilty, but don't waste my time." He pled guilty and whimpered away. She called my name and said, "Didn't you hear what I told the other gentleman?" I said, "I did, Your Honor, and when you mentioned bizarre circumstances, you gave me a ray of hope." I said, "Now, Your Honor, I've been seated over here for about 3 hours, and I can see you're very busy. I don't want to waste your time. I was going to plead not guilty, but I'll plead guilty if you want me to. But if you would give me 2 minutes to explain my extenuating circumstances, I promise I'll be satisfied with your decision." She rolled her eyes. How could she say no? I'm being charming, and I'm wearing khaki pants. So I said, "Your Honor, first thing I'd like to show you is I have another speeding ticket from another county." And you may think that was a ridiculous thing to do, and I don't think so. What I was doing, because I was being deliberate and because I'm following the plan, I'm thinking about how to connect with her. Everybody who comes in there is just saying they're a wonderful person and nothing's wrong. So by speaking against my interest, she sees that I am a truthful person. So by being truthful, I will increase the trust and respect. Sure, I might be a constant speeder, but at least I'm honest. I said, "Now, Your Honor, I'm upset about these tickets. I've lived in Oklahoma at that time about 10 years. I've never even had a parking ticket. And I've gone to the tag agency, bought a copy of my record to show you." Now, I said earlier the facts don't matter if nobody believes you. Of course the facts are important. What I'm trying to do is empower you with your expertise to connect it to the people in your organization so the facts will be engaged in whatever it is we're trying to accomplish. So I establish the relationship so she believes me, then I show her the facts, 10 years, not even a parking ticket. I said, "Your Honor, I'm very upset about this." I said, about 6 weeks before the first one of these tickets, my car was involved in an accident. Here's a copy of the police report, right? I said, "Your Honor, I think it was my fault. I wasn't even in my car. My car was parked on the street. Someone ran into the front end of my car while it was parked, $7,000 worth of damage. Here is a receipt from the insurance company and body shop showing you that that's true." So I said, "Your Honor, here's what I think. After 10 years, not even a parking ticket. Suddenly, through no fault of my own, my car has a front-end collision. Suddenly, I get 2 speeding tickets in a 2-week period for the exact same percentage over the speed limit. Clearly, my speedometer was damaged in that accident, and here is a letter from a mechanic telling you my speedometer was damaged in that accident." Now, that letter was from a mechanic who happened to be a student in my class. But we did look into it, and we believe the speedometer was off. She rolled her eyes and said, "I will let you out of the speeding ticket, just don't tell anybody." And obviously, I've just told all of you, and actually, I've been telling people for years and years. A while back, we added up that I've told over 50,000 people the story of the speeding ticket, and me and my big mouth, I'm in Oklahoma City going, "I've told 50,000 people." And this guy yelled out, "That judge is my mother." So now she knows I'm talking about it. You'd think we'll just drive carefully, and I try, but I have a little problem with traffic rules, and I get pulled over a couple times a year in the college town. Just before the pandemic, I was pulled over for not stopping coming out of a parking lot, which I felt like was sort of an unnecessary safety rule. So the police pull me over. He said, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" "Always tell the truth." I said, "Yeah, I didn't stop at the stop sign coming out of the parking lot." He said, "Did you see the stop sign?" I said, "Yeah, I saw the stop sign." He said, "Why didn't you stop?" I said, "I didn't see you," right? And had I seen him, I would have stopped. And you know, he let me out of the ticket. I found you tell the truth in a funny way, they let you out. So it was a silly story, but hopefully you see that had I not gone through this process, it probably wouldn't have worked. I consciously tried to connect with the judge by getting out of the way the reasons that she wouldn't connect with me and trust me. Second, I stood in her shoes. I looked at things from her point of view. Third, I tried as best I could to build trust, admiration, and respect. I was careful not to create conflicts and confrontations, and I came with the facts. So in conclusion, in an effort to help you go home with your ideas from Elevate and all the things that you do for Lexus. I hope that some of these ideas help you be more influential. And to wrap it up, just telling people the facts alone often isn't enough. Just because you have authority, people don't listen. In fact, the authority may put people off. So what we're going to do is consciously stop to look at our influence opportunities. We're going to remember the factors that matter. I am going to connect with people, even customers, as quickly and effectively as I can. We're going to look at things from other people's point of view, the customer's point of view, when we send emails, people at the factory, whatever the interaction may be. And then probably most important, crank up that likability. We're going to consciously behave in such a way that people's trust, admiration, and respect in us are increased. We're going to try to avoid conflicts and confrontations, and then we're going to make sure the facts are the facts. I want to thank you so much for your attention. I also want to thank Lexus for letting me be involved in this exciting program. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's really been a thrill for me. And the last thing I wanted to say is I'm sure somebody is going to ask you what you thought about my presentation. So the last thing I want to say is, I like you. Thank you.